The idea here is that the world is an unfair place. And there are some of us who learned that in kindergarten, that life is unfair. And then there are people on the left who just don't seem to care about the fact that life is unfair. Because life is unfair, they say that it's our job to correct the unfairnesses of life. And not just when there's societal unfairness, when somebody's actually being discriminated against, which we all agree we need to do something about, but when we are talking about actual imbalances. I mean, when the Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal, it doesn't actually mean that all men are created equal in their abilities. It means all men are created equal in their rights. You know, obviously, there's some of us who are smarter, and there's some of us who are dumber. You know, there's some of us who, like me, who are never going to play in the NBA. I'm 5'9", I'm Jewish, and I can't jump. You know, and no matter what I do, that will be the case. And that inequality is not inequity. The left identifies inequality as inequity. They are the same thing to folks on the left. For people on the left, if something is unequal, that means some great injustice was done. And when you look at that with any sort of rigor, you realize how silly that is. I mean, the same argument, so for example, they will say that in Ferguson, Missouri, a disproportionate number of black people were pulled over for speeding in Ferguson, Missouri. Clearly, this was evidence of racism on the part of the Ferguson Police Department. Well, if you say, well, 90% of the players in the NBA are black, is that evidence of racism in the general manager's office of the NBA? Clearly not. But the idea, just because there are two unequal numbers does not mean that somebody is being victimized or that there is a victimizer. It's possible that black folks in Ferguson tend to speed, which, by the way, is the case in New Jersey, where there was another one of these issues several years ago, and they did statistical sampling. And what they found is that blacks were actually being under-arrested for speeding, that black folks were actually speeding at a higher rate of speed. But again, anytime there's an imbalance, there's a need by the left to fix cosmic injustice. So if one person has $4 in a room and one person has $1 in a room, the view of the left is that somebody who has $4 must have done something to screw the guy with $1, because equal outcome is the goal, not equal opportunity. And this is actually really counterproductive for folks, because this is why you hear so much now about income inequality. Income inequality is the stupidest term you could possibly come up with. Income inequality is a complete waste of time as a political issue, and you shouldn't fall into the trap of even discussing it, because the truth is that any good person is not really worried about income inequality. Any decent person is worried about poverty. If you're worried about the rich guy and not the poor guy, then why? What did the rich guy do? Just because he's rich, does that mean that he chained somebody to a desk somewhere or put them to work in a slave mine? It just means that he engaged in more voluntary transactions of worth than the poor guy. So I'm worried about the guy who's impoverished. I'm not worried about the inequality. But folks on the left, because equal outcome is their goal, not prosperity, equal outcome, they would rather have everybody equal in squalor than unequal in wealth.